Fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome to the Happy Hour Garage, featuring a duo of racing gals who live for the thunder of horsepower, the smell of high-octane fuel, and burning rubber at 200 miles an hour. They believe a day at the Speedway is like a day at the spa. Together, they bring you NASCAR news and interviews and get you ready for the races each week. And now, here's your hosts, Shannon Yoakum and Maureen Kelly from the Happy Hour Garage.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Hey, welcome everybody to a Tuesday night edition of the Happy Hour Garage. I'm your host, Shannon Yoakum from beautiful British Columbia, and I'm joined tonight, as usual, by the lovely Maureen Kelly from Pennsylvania, starting to dig her way out. How are you tonight, Maureen? You went for a walk today in that 3 feet of snow you got?
Yeah, a little over 2 feet of snow here, and I got out today, and I'm one of these people, I can't really be kept inside. I need to be out, and so I had a great walk. I cleared up my brain, got rid of all the cobwebs. It was a fun day.
That's good. Yeah, we had a beautiful sunny day here. It was so great to see the sun. And that 2 feet of snow we had a few weeks ago is melting, and I'm seeing my grass in the backyard. So I'm really hoping this is the end of winter for me. And I'm really, really, really hoping that Daytona warms up soon. Because you know what? The last few days, we've been warmer than Daytona. And I'm only like 9 or 10 days away from leaving. So you guys better get your act together and start getting hot and sunny. So that's all I could say about that.
It should be.
Yes.
It's really odd for the southern part of the U.S. to be caught up in this cold freeze that they've got going on down there. Everybody, they're worried about their fruit trees in that area. That's how bad it's been. So
I'm worried about my tan. I can't come back looking pasty white.
No, you're going to be at all the different races too. I think a lot of people only think of the 3 races at Daytona, but God, you're actually going to be at quite a few races while you're down there.
I think I've got 10 races on schedule. Some at New Smyrna Speedway, some at Volusia, and then of course anything that's racing at Daytona, I'll be there.
Right.
I got my husband. I already warned him, honey, we're going to be going to a few races. He said, okay. But hey, let me bring on our PR guy, Buddy from Johnson City, near Bristol, Tennessee. How you doing, Buddy?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
How's everybody?
Hey, I think we're both doing good, and we're really excited to have our next guest, which you always, of course, arrange for us. And you know what? Before I forget, I forgot this last week, is we are now on the 110nation.com. They picked up our show, which is also broadcast on iHeartRadio, so we're getting all over the country now, and that show plays in coffee shops all over the world, so that's kind of cool, and we really thank Jason McMillan for that, and he just approached us, so that's a nice compliment to you guys, and congratulations on that. So let me bring on our next guest. I'm anxious to talk to him because this guy made a big announcement yesterday in the racing world, and we're pretty excited about it. He has over 27 years experience in the business. Most importantly to me, he's had several Canadian drivers drive for him, including J.R. Fitzpatrick, Trevor and Wheeler Boys, Daryl Haar, all guys I know. Actually, my company sponsored J.R. Fitzpatrick back in the day, so we have a little affiliation there. Let me bring on the owner of JD Motorsports, Johnny Davis. Thanks for coming on the show, and hi.
Good afternoon. Glad to have me on the show, and man, we got a lot of great things to talk about here with Ryan being the driver for the 01, announcing that yesterday. Got an engineer on board for the first time at JD Motorsports. Got Ross, a different crew chief there with Brian Berry. Got Eric McClure back in the zero at Daytona. Man, we're just all excited at our place.
You know, I'm excited for you. I think it was last year at some point in time we interviewed Michael Self, and he was driving for you at Road America, and that caution came out with all those laps, that pace laps, and there was fuel mileage race, and there he was sitting on the front row. I couldn't have been happier for you guys. I think everybody likes to cheer for the underdog, and in the past you've been the underdog, but Daytona and Talladega kind of that's out of the game, and you guys are pretty darn good at those tracks.
Yeah, we got a good drafting package, and we had 3 top tens in between those races last year, so we was very excited to do that. Ross, he finished 9th at Daytona, and we were second taking the white flag. It just didn't come back around that way. Got kind of spun out there, but that's kind of the beast of the race at Daytona. It's always unknown every lap you make around that place. And then we went back to July down there, and Ross and Harrison both finished in the top 10. So we had some really good finishes there. We love the super speedway racing, and we're just looking forward to being able to be there here in 3 weeks and race our butt off.
Well, the play track races kind of put everybody on an equal playing field, which is great for teams like you. I mean, you guys have had times where I know it's been tough, and there's lots of teams out there that have those tough times, and I think most of the fans cheer loudly for these underdog teams that are getting up there and they're leading, whether it's Road America or Daytona, and I mean, you guys had the first female ever Xfinity crew chief. I mean, how cool is that? You've done so much, and it's so interesting. Like, we could talk for 2 hours, and we probably will.
Yeah, and that'll be fine. I'll stay on here for 2 hours if you want to do that. But we've done a lot of firsts in NASCAR. We've brought a lot of the first sponsors in there for their first time, and we're just real excited with everything we got going on, everything we've been able to do in the sport, and NASCAR recognizes a lot of things we've done, and we're just so proud to be a continued part of what we love to do, and somehow still be able to buy groceries out of it.
Yeah, and buying groceries is always important, especially if it
Always
contains
a plus,
bacon.
Yeah.
Are you a bacon guy?
Well, I'm kind of trying to lose some weight. I done got my belly out there too far over the holidays, and I hadn't had any bacon in a few days, but I do love it.
Oh, God, yes. Bacon is my weakness, I'm fairly certain. Tell me how you started.
Well, my dad was a drag racer. I got pictures of his drag car actually when drag strips were dirt. And I'd go at 4 and 5 years old, just me and him and my uncle, and I'd hang on the fence and they'd race. I just a little kid running around the drag strip. And my mother's father had a junkyard and a bunch of old cars running around there all the time. I just an old motorhead, been around nothing but cars all my life. And they started taking me to oval races when I was a kid also. We had a long race, they call it the Old Gaffney Speedway. It was a long track here in town. It was about 3/4 of a mile long. They'd really fly by there and the dust just flying. I remember going to that thing as a kid and just never could get it out of my blood and just kept on. I started out drag racing like my dad did, and it just didn't last long enough, so I started driving, and I found driving dirt cars, and I found out pretty quick on the oval I wasn't as good a driver as I was a mechanic, and I better get somebody driving things or I'd really go broke quick. So that's how it all evolved in, and I went to work for James Hilton in 1981. I learned a lot from that man, and he let me build a sportsman car over there in his garage, and we went sportsman racing part-time, and it just evolved from there, and here we are today.
Now, JD, this is Maureen. You actually have raced in your past. Is that correct? That's what you were just talking about now.
Dirt tracks. I run one asphalt race at Greenville Pickens, but mostly dirt tracks here in Gaffney, Buffalo, South Carolina, and around the area at home. Yes, ma'am.
And then at that time, I'm sure you worked on your own engines, etc.
Yes, ma'am. Built my own engines, built my own cars, did it all.
That makes you one of the best of the newer owners, really. I think because a lot of owners today, the newer ones coming in, don't actually quite know what's under an engine. They're more business people, And you are actually you've fabricated over the years, is that correct?
Yes, I've been a fabricator. I've built bodies. I've built chassis, fit windows, finished fab with aluminum. I've done it all in the day. I still can do it, but I don't do as good a job as these young boys do. They really got an art to making all that stuff fit a lot better than we used to, and they don't use as much caulking as we did, but we kind of made some mess out of some things, but we always made it work and got the job done, got to the racetrack, and had success.
That's what was important, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Johnny, you and Maureen talking about fabricating. You were the head fabricator on the 1987 team for David Pearson. Larry Pearson, his son, drove. Can you tell us about that? The excitement.
Yeah, I was working in Martinsville, Virginia, and run across Ricky. I was working for Buddy Arrington. I run across Ricky Pearson at the racetrack, and he got me over the corner. He said, "We got a new car, and we're racing every week." And it was a banjo car. He said, "We ain't got time to get that thing done." I said, "I need you to come down there and go to work." And timing was right. I was supposed to went to work for Elmo Langley on his Cup car in 2 weeks, and Ricky talked me into coming down there, and boy, we finished that car, and I think we won 6 or 7 races in a row when we got to the racetrack with that thing.
That's amazing.
Yep.
It truly is, and you guys have, you've come so far. I mean, talk about some of the, obviously, with the 01, the 1, the 4. You've had some various drivers in that over the years. I noticed Morgan Shepherd's been in there a few times, and Curtis Davis seems to be one of your go-to guys. Like, what's your relationship with him?
Curtis is my son. He's still around. He's involved in some things going on right now, and we just need to kind of not say a whole lot about him, but he would love to be back in the driver's seat, but he just can't right now.
Oh, I noticed he was your very first driver in 2002 when you debuted the Zero car. That was kind of cool, have your son in it, and how did that feel?
It was great. It was real exciting, to do that. We had raced together since he was 7 years old. We started out in go-karts, and we went through the ranks of that and did the late model circuits, did the Hooters Pro Cup stuff, and then I think our first race together, if I'm not wrong, was Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We went up there, and there was 5 cars went home, and we made the race. We'd never seen that place before we got there.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool. Were you nervous watching him race?
No. I've never been nervous. You
Tell
don't get nervous till it's all over and the wreck's done. Then you kind of shake a little bit and think about it.
Yeah,
you don't have time when it's going on to be nervous.
I was going to say, you can't. You're just in the heat of the moment. I know we were talking to Steve Meal the other night watching Shane race, and it was the same thing. He says, "No, I feel nothing until the race is over, and then my legs start shaking, my palms start sweating." And
No, it's all an after effect with racing. You never realize what all's going on till the deal's over, and you're kind of in the truck riding home or ever how you got there, and you go to thinking about things that could have happened. But it's always good. We've never had a bad experience racing.
No, I don't believe there is such a thing. It doesn't matter. I mean, you're racing. It's a passion. I'm as passionate as you are about racing. I know Maureen and Buddy are too. We are true. There's a difference between fair weather racers, whether they're fans or crew chiefs or dads or team owners. We're definitely there. Now, you have a partner, Gary Keller.
Yes, ma'am.
What does he contribute to your team?
Man, Gary's a great investor in our team. He's helped us grow. We would not be here where we're at today had Gary Keller not put an influx of money in us 3 years ago. I think it's when he started, and we're working on our 4th year now. And he helped us with buying cars, bought some engines, leased some engines. And Gary's really a silent partner in this thing that really put us on the map. You ought to have him on your show one night.
Hey, we'd love to talk
him.
to him. Absolutely.
Yeah, he'd love to do it.
You know, it's always fun to talk to people that aren't necessarily drivers because, and I will quiz you a bit more on this being an owner, but also as an investor. You know, like there's so many aspects to racing that people don't really fully understand. They don't understand what it costs. They don't understand the stress involved or the euphoria. You know, like when you get 4 top 10s from Ross Chastain last year in his rookie year, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
That was great. You know, that week we really overachieved with Ross last year, and now we've set the bar pretty high for what we got to do at 2016 because we never want to stop climbing this hill we're going up. We always just want to keep going up, 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 up. And, you know, we're never going to reach the top. And I guess if we reach the top, we'd quit. But I don't think there is a top of this mountain in racing. We just keep going.
I noticed that Ross said something very similar. He said something like, you know, he hoped that he hadn't like peaked too early in his career last year, but having watched Ross over a few years racing, I'm sure that he's just on his way up. I guess when you were out there with your son and at some of the other smaller tracks in the venues and all, you see some of these younger drivers. What did you look for when you were looking at Preece and Ross Chastain?
Well, they both had good experience. They had a big racing background. They had a lot of races under their belt in other venues, whether it was go-karts or local short track stuff. So they had enough time devoted into the sport of racing that they knew how to race. They didn't wreck a whole lot. They seemed to have a good schedule of where they finished a lot of the races without being in wrecks. You know, if they were out, it was mechanical issues. So a team like ours, we don't have big budgets, so we can't be putting right sides on the cars every week or front ends or nose. We got to have racers in our cars that know how to take care of them, but yet can still perform to our best ability for our cars that we have and our partners. And that's what I look for in people, and both of these young men have that.
Yeah, I've seen Ryan as well, and I'll say that's the truth. And he can really bring a car back looking the way it was sent out. And you're right, that's important with some of the smaller, not necessarily underfunded teams, but certainly, you know, you don't have the funds of a junior motorsports at this time.
Yeah, I mean, we're really underfunded compared to them teams, but we've stepped it up a little bit this year. Our cost of operating really went up. You know, like I say, we got an engineer in there now. We got a crew chief for each car and a co-crew chief and somebody to help me manage the people. I mean, our program just continues to leap and bound, go straight up in the air and draw attention and have good finishes. And this year, I believe, really is going to be our most exciting, best year ever for our team. If you look at the new chase format, that's something else to get excited about because for the past 2 years, we would have had at least one car in the chase in 14 and 15. It would have been Landon Castle in 14 and Ross in 15. So that's a big accomplishment for a team like ours.
Well, with that new chase, which I think will really benefit Xfinity lower budget teams, like I think I read somewhere that only 19 cars completed all the races. Like you have to start the race and blah blah blah, you know. So 19, 12, you know, your odds are pretty darn good. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see you get all 3 cars in the chase. You guys are very competitive. You got some really good drivers there. I mean, Ryan Preece alone, I mean, man, in the mod world, that kid was an amazing driver. And Ross Chastain has proven himself more and more and more every year I watch him. The kid is outstanding. And Eric McClure as well. And I know you're going to have some revolving drivers through there with one of those teams. And yeah, you know, to think about 2 of your cars being in the chase, there's more money when you're in the chase. More money for a small team like you guys is so critical. I mean, that's got to be really exciting.
it's real exciting, and not only will it bring more money in your finishing, but it also brings more viewers to the sport because the chase is so exciting in itself. So now we have something for our sponsors to get more interested in, and our marketing partners, and this builds an all-new excitement and hype to the sport of the Xfinity Series.
I, too, am extremely excited about the chase in the Xfinity Series. I did a little number crunching. I believe you would have got Ross in there if they'd have been under that format last year.
That is correct.
So I'm thinking you guys are going to have a great shot at getting at least one, if not two, of your cars in the chase. Nick, you said Eric McClure is signed to drive for Daytona in the Zero car. Do you have any further plans for that car for the season?
We will take the car to each and every race, and we will race the car. We're talking to several drivers right now about filling it, and Eric's trying to find some more money to do some more races. He's a super young man and a very good fit for a sponsor and doing marketing. He has a great program going on up there in Virginia, and what they're doing to get recognition for the marketing partners he has, and it's just sometimes they're hard, and he hadn't been able to come up with the money he'd like to be able to run a full season this year. So we're looking at several drivers right now. We've had 4 different people call us and express interest in driving that car, and it's just all of the decision of mine and Gary's as to whether we go with one or we put 3 or 4 guys in that thing throughout the year and try and find us another driver fit for our program that could really help us and grow it, to the next level.
I loved seeing those Canadian boys in your car. I mean, did they buy their rides, or did you actually recruit them? The boys, father, son, J.R. Fitzpatrick is a champion many times over in the Canadian Tire Series up here, and Daryl Harr. I mean, Daryl Harr is a legend in my world up here.
Yeah, I mean, all them guys brought sponsors to the table, just like everybody else has always done, and unfortunately, that's the demon in this business. If you don't have any money, it's hard to get in. But all them guys did a great job. As you mentioned, JR was a champion. He had won championships up there. He done a good job. He was a heck of a racer. Had JR's father not got injured in that accident, I think JR would have really went far. I think now he's having to maybe help with the business stuff and not getting to do what he used to do. But
that's changed quite a bit up here.
Yep. And
but
Mr. Harr was very good, and they had some situations arise, and they had to step away for a little while. But I'm sure they'll be back.
Carl Harr won the first race ever at my track up here. They built a half-mile D-shaped oval with 11-degree banking, and Daryl Harr won the very first race here. It was awesome, and of course that's his dad. Carl, they have that computer business, and Daryl's his son, of course. But the Wheeler boys, I always laugh because I have a funny little story about Wheeler boys. I mean, I was wandering around the pits one day, and I love to be in the pits. I mean, I'm a motorhead. I want to be down there. I want to hear about, what's going on with the motors and this and that. And he whistled at me. Now, I thought that was really funny because he was like 19 and I was 38.
Yeah, well, you know how it is. When you're hot, you're hot, right?
Well, I'm not particularly hot, but
go.
I certainly appreciated the whistle.
No, but a lot of people don't remember or don't think about it, but I was Trevor's crew chief when he was out here driving for James Hilton, and Trevor and I had a lot of fun together. We really bonded. I talked to Trevor just the other week. We still stay in touch, and
that's good.
He tells me what Wheeler's doing and all, and they were a great family. I enjoyed his daddy, Buddy. I worked for him for a couple of races, and
really?
They were great people. They really are.
They are. In the Canadian racing world, there's only a few names that really stand out. One is obviously Villeneuve or Carpentier, but at the next level down, Fitzpatrick and Don Thompson is the one who the company I currently work for, and I've been there for 15 years, sponsored him his whole racing career, Home Hardware. So, and JR was a sub team off that. So they used to come to our store when they raced out here in the Canadian Tire Series, and we'd have a big event, and it was great fun and stuff. And of course, the Hars are been around forever. So, in the Canadian world of racing, which is pretty small, you've got all the best guys there trying to make a name for themselves and break into the U.S. market, which is pretty tricky.
Yeah, and I met Don and worked with him a little bit when JR drove our car, and he was a tremendous super talent in himself. I mean, he could drive a race car, he could wrench a race car, he could do it all. He was kind of like myself.
Yeah, he still wrenches on a young guy coming up in the field, Lapsevich. He's a son of a current road course racing expert, and he kind of retired. I mean, Don's not the most articulate guy to listen to, but man, can he drive. I mean, he brought us 7 championships.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great talent.
And it's cool that those kind of guys can race with your team. I mean, when we interviewed Michael Self, he was so excited about that Road America deal. I mean, he's a K&N West driver, right? So, he's trying to get up there, and it's teams like you guys that bring up these young guys and trying to make a name for themselves. I mean, Ross Chastain has raced in trucks. He's raced in lots of stuff, always known as the watermelon guy.
Yeah, he's kind of got the nickname Watermelon Kid. I mean, his family's been farming watermelons in Florida for as long as he can remember, and that kind of went along with him. And the Watermelon Association came on board to help him, kind of get his career going in racing, and he does a lot of promotions for him. So it's a win-win for the sponsor and for Ross getting to be able to get a little money from him to help us race better. And he's a good talent.
JD, I was looking at the list of your lineups. I know you mentioned that now you have, I guess you would call him a car engineer. You have the crew chiefs, Cogswell, correct? I guess, who
Gary's
is...
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's my question.
We
Gary's
promoted
role.
Gary up into a little bit higher role. He's helping me manage all the guys in the shop. He's going to be a co-crew chief for every team, trying, like, if something works good for one team, he's going to get to the other one and spread the word to what they've done in the garage area so they can try it. And he's going to be like a mediator between all 3 teams, assisting whichever one needs some help that's not going as good. We hired Zach McGowan to be the team engineer, and he's also going to be the crew chief on the 01. Brian Berry will be the crew chief on the 4, and Todd Myers is still with us as the crew chief on the 0. So we've got the best lineup of engineering staff, crew chief staff that we ever have had. And not that the guys we've had in the past have not done a good job, because they all have done a great job. Everybody that we've had in the past has been a good talent to help us grow our teams. It's just a time to invest in more good talent, and now that we feel like the timing's right, so we could just have a great year with 2 of our teams in our 0 car, kind of be a test team at different tracks too, to learn things. We're going to the bump stops this year in our series, so that's new to us. We've had a car on the plate, the setup plate. I call it the Petri rig. It pushes the wheels up, and it makes graphs of how the wheel stops, how the curves are, and how harsh it is. And they've had a car on there for a week just doing test runs on the right front wheel and trying to get that thing to land right so the driver can really feel it good.
I have a 2-part question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Maureen.
No, go ahead, buddy.
Do you refer to them as Petri rings because were they developed by Andy Petri?
Yeah, those things were actually developed when Andy Petri had the shop up there in Asheville, and they was racing, and he was a big part of getting these machines made. They're solid 2-inch steel. They got 4 holes square cut out in them where the wheels set. They got some big scale pads that pushes the tires up with hydraulic rams. It's got a computer program written in it and some sensors, and it tells you how soft the wheel rate gets at so much wheel load, and then where it ramps up. And it's a very unique tool. It's one of the most sought after tools in the business right now to use to set your cars up and get your spring compliance to where it lands right and then the driver feels the right feel he needs to get into the racetrack.
My other question was, with the 01 and the 4 car, are you are running the full season, and do you have sponsorship for the cars full time for both cars?
We have one sponsor signed with which is G&K. They've been with us now since 2008, and they're on board again with the 01. We got 3 sponsors that haven't signed yet. The contracts are written, and we're waiting on everything to get back for the 4 car. We got the Watermelon Association, and we got all of the people that have supported Ryan in the past. And please forgive me out there in the listening audience for not knowing who those people are, but they're on board helping us promote Ryan too. So we got a good program going. We got rentals on for Daytona with the Eric McClure and the 0 car. You know, they were a sponsor with Eric and myself back in '07. Things didn't go like we all thought they are. We parted ways, and we're going to try to team back up here and see if we can't make it just a good run at Daytona for everybody, for his partners and for our team and everything.
And you've had some affiliation, too, with Nemechek's in the 87. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we partnered up a couple of years. Joe was not going to run the thing full-time, and we was wanting to run more races and not run all the races, and we partnered up and became a partner with Nemco Motorsports, and I think we ran 20 races that year, and he ran the rest of them. And then last year we changed the number to 0 and moved the points over to it because we were going to run all the races on our own, and transferred all that to our ownership, to Gary's and I's. And it's been a good deal. Joe's a great person, a great talent. We learned a little bit from him too. And you know, it don't matter who you're around in the racing or how good or how bad you think they are. If you'll listen, everybody knows something, and you can learn something from everybody, and you got to take all that and move forward with it.
What are your biggest challenges being an owner?
The money.
Well,
you hear that all the time, you know?
Yeah. Like, you obviously have to. Are you the primary guy who goes out and talks to the sponsors and always trying to get money and that, or like, what's your role these days?
No, we have people that chase money daily for us. There's 3 people in the marketing department. We got people writing doing social media. We got one guy, it's his job just to call on people every day, and we got some interns that are going to college. We got in there now. We just built some new offices and got a lot of room. They are just day in and day out creating a list of people they think we ought to look at and making connections, and some things are coming together.
What you know, I don't know if you want to give any numbers here, but I don't think a lot of people understand what it costs. Can you share some of that?
Well, what it cost us and what it cost someone like Richard Childers are big numbers different.
Yeah, no, I'm only interested in your numbers.
Yeah, it cost us $50,000 per car once we're in the truck headed to the racetrack to go complete the event that weekend.
And that's like all the hotels for the crews, getting there, tires, all that sort of stuff?
And that's provided we don't wreck any race cars.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
That's provided everything comes back in the truck in one piece.
That's not always possible. We know that, but especially at Daytona. How many cars are you taking to Daytona?
we will actually have 5 cars on the property. We'll have 3 that we're racing and 2 backups to share between the 3 teams. Hopefully we don't need those, though.
I'll be watching. I hope you won't either. Just knowing those drivers, and they're known for keeping their equipment up, I'd sincerely doubt that. I wanted to ask you about the tire situation. No teams have been able to test this year whatsoever. So the first time your teams actually acquire the tires is going to be when you pull into the gates down there. Is that correct?
Yes, but now we have tire data. You know, we're a partner with General Motors, and I'm sorry for not mentioning them earlier. They get us tire data, some testing they do going to the race. We know wheel loads from different things that's went on, so we got a pretty good idea of what we need for air pressure and all that before we ever leave the shop, go in there and what to expect from the tires. And now that we have an engineer to read all that information and understand it, it's just got to make us be better.
Oh, definitely. And that's important. I think a lot of people don't know. There is a connection between your team, GM, and the tire situation. So GM does help with that section of it.
Yes, ma'am.
Buddy?
Johnny, what would it be like for a team like yours to go down to Daytona and win the race? I mean, what kind of impact, how much could that change things financially for you?
Well, that would be first the ultimate high that I've ever had. You know, I don't drink, I don't do drugs or any of that stuff, and I'm not a very big emotional guy, but you'd probably see more emotion out of me than you have my whole life at that. That's a goal to win a race. And, of course, Daytona's been one I felt like we could win several times, and we just got robbed, it felt like, of winning the race. But, you know, from a financial standpoint, you know, we would be the little team that could and the little team that did, and we would be the successor of the David and Goliath story, so to speak, if it does happen. And I think it can.
Hey, it happened.
You know,
to the
we
Wood
all have
brothers.
those expectations.
Sure, look at the Wood brothers.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that could seriously happen. And if that happens, I'm going to be down there hugging your ass.
Well, you come on in the pits, and I'll hug you right there and give you a big old kiss right in front of everybody. And we'll try not to make my girlfriend get mad over that.
No.
I have to thank her for putting up with me traveling around and take her with me, and she does a good job trying to take care of me and keep me going in the right mind and all that. You know, everybody needs a good woman behind them, and I have one.
You know what? Actually, that leads me right to my next question is anybody that's involved in racing knows that there's a support team behind them. And in your case, you just mentioned her. What's her name?
Carol Clark.
Awesome. You know, because anybody that's involved in racing knows that 99% of the time you're at the shop thrashing away on cars or whatever, you know, so they're kind of, you know, always on the outside looking in, but the fact that they support you is huge, and that, you know, how cool is that? Give her some love.
Yeah, she's a great woman, and I'm glad to have her in my life, and she's been a big supporter now for going on 4 years, and we got a lot of things a lot of people don't know about. I had a handicapped son that passed away February 28th, 2014, and she was a big part of helping me take care of him at the time. And
so sorry to hear that.
I couldn't have done it without her. A lot of things.
Our sympathies with you. I can only imagine what that was like, and trying to run a team and still maintaining life, you know, while all that's going on. And people never realize how much else is going on. I mean, you're human beings too. You have a life. You have trials and tribulations. You have a mortgage to pay. Well, maybe you don't, but whatever.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, we all do. And people don't really realize the expense of racing. I mean, people race because they love it, but they don't have any concept of what it costs, you know, not only financially, but emotionally. I mean, you did lose that son, and that was a terrible time for you. And you know what? We all bleed for you there, and kudos to you for carrying on.
Yeah, well, he's a big inspiration to me. He's really probably the reason I'm still alive today. I was pretty rambunctious in my younger life, and he was born handicapped to me on May the 1st, 1978, and went through a lot of times there in the hospital with him and just having to be there for him, and it made me do a lot of thinking about my life and change the direction I was going. So God had a plan, and I'm still trying to make it all come together for us.
You know, we talked to Steve Meal the other night, and listening to him talking about Shane was just heartbreaking, and I know all three of us, it pulled at our heartstrings, and people don't realize that people have families and there's stuff going on, and you know that big C word is in all our lives, and you know racing is awesome, but you know we also have lives, and stuff like that. People need to know that. You know, they need to know that Johnny Davis, I just signed Ryan Preece and Ross Chastain and Eric McClure, and I'm having 3 cars in the Daytona 500, is a human being.
Yeah, we're all humans, you know, and we're one great big family in the racing community. So many friends, and we've lost so many friends here lately. We had a truck driver that worked for us a little bit last year, Sonny. He passed away last night with cancer. He had cancer before and thought he had it beat. He was 71 years old and retired. Just liked to go to races every now and again. And he had blood clots and cancer. Came back about 6 months ago, and I got a text this afternoon that he had passed away. So we continue to lose people among us. And we're one big family here to support each other. Even though we're strong, fierce competitors week in and week out, we'll all help each other all through the week and even on the weekends if need be.
You really saw that when Judy Allison died. I mean, the community came together, and Bobby Allison's, wow. You know, he's one of my heroes, and that was a tough time. But like you say, it's a family. We all... You know, whether you're part of that team or just on the peripheral like we are, you still feel that, and that's what that is exactly what makes race fans passionate. And you know, they like to hear these stories coming from guys like you. You know, guys that are underfunded teams. You almost went bankrupt there at one point in time, but you crawled your way back. You know, you and Gary. You know, I guess it was Gary's money that brought you back, and there you are, you know, in first place at Road America.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I said a while ago. Without Gary Keller, we wouldn't be where we are today. He really come in there and with an influx of money at the point in time we needed that shot in the arm, and it just helped us tremendously in how we grew and how we got better equipment. And we've had a lot of great drivers. Everyone we've ever had has been a good stepping stone to helping our corporation grow.
Yeah, you've had a significant amount of drivers. Who is your favorite? There, let me put you on the spot.
You put me on the spot now.
Well, you better say your son or you're in trouble, right?
Yeah. It was awful exciting and fun to work with your son and do that together, you know, and I wish we were able to continue doing that, but things won't let it be that way. But, you know, we had a lot of fun with Mike Wallace. He was a great guy there, you know, but that run its course, and nothing lasts forever, although there was a time I thought that would have lasted forever. But you know, we had a lot of fun with Landon Castle. He did us a tremendous job. And now we're having a lot of fun with Ross, and we're going to have a lot of fun with Ryan, and we're going to have some fun with Eric down at Daytona. These boys all know what it's about. We all know what we're going into, but the biggest thing we do at JD Motorsports, the camaraderie amongst the people in the shop, and our plan at going to the racetrack is when we go in there, we're going to go in there smiling, and regardless of what happens, we're going to leave there smiling. We're going to all be friends, and we're going to continue to get better.
Oh, that's the best, isn't it? That's really what our sport is about. When my sisters are sitting there and they're big, we're all big football fans, but my sisters they don't understand, the racing addiction and whatever. And I say, it's a spirited sport. It's different from football. Football changes, the players change. They don't really, it's definitely not a family. We know that. Like
Right.
some of them could just like slaughter each other. It's very different in racing. And I think that that's an amazing fact. I was thinking earlier today when I was looking over my notes for tonight that a number of our sports heroes are retiring now, or they're backing away a little bit from the sport. There's an awful lot of people that are looking for their new special driver. I mean, can you imagine the hole that Jeff Gordon has left now, right? His
Are you
retirement.
talking about me, Mo?
Yeah, Shannon's looking for a new driver. That's what it is, JD. It's like the marketing now of getting Ross out there, right? And getting Ryan out there. And, they're both terrific guys. When I've had a chance to really be up close to Ryan and listen to him and everything, do you think that they can become like the future heroes for you guys?
Most definitely. But both of those guys have the talent. And I'm going to say it again, and I don't want to bore you with it, but if we find the proper marketing partners, we can help boost those two kids' career to a Cup career. I mean, they have the talent. They have raw talent, and they are good. But there's 100 of them out there like that. There's thousands of them out there, and it's just all about finding the right marketing partners to put the right dollars into the right places for them to be able to show their talent.
Well, I think you opened up a new market there with Ryan Preece. I mean, he's a 2013 champion, right? So he's finished second a couple times. You're bringing in to the NASCAR world a whole group of mod fans, and I know I had a couple questions from mod fans about Ryan Preece. I mean, he's a kind of a clean-cut kid. He's got a good reputation. All those mod fans are now going to be watching him because now he has a full-time ride rather than bouncing all over the place like so many of them do. I mean, you announced that yesterday. That was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Let me tell you one thing about Ryan Preece that's very impressive about that young man. He works on his race cars day in and day out up north, his modified cars and the other cars he has up there. He don't go sit in a room and play video games and his dad or somebody's out there preparing the car and he takes a helmet and he knows that car. He understands that car. He knows what makes that car tick. He can work on that car. That, to me, makes better racers in this day and age, and that's something that we don't have many of no more, but them are the better racers and the ones that can really do more with less also because they understand the car more so.
Well, and that's all. I remember Jeff Gordon saying this years ago was, he knew how to work on a race car, and so many of them don't these days. They come from money or whatever. I got to put a name out there for you, Cameron Haley.
Cameron Haley is a tremendous talent also. I never will forget Johnny Sauter was in the truck, and I don't remember where they was racing, and I'm friends with Pepper that works at Thor Sports, and Johnny come on the radio wanting to know who that kid was in that truck. Said, I'm driving my ass off, and I can't get near him. And Johnny had plenty of experience, and Cameron was just new to the scene, but he is a great talent also. I've watched him, and his name was discussed a lot in our operation this year, but I feel like what he's done is a better deal for him than what we had to offer.
Yeah, it's got to be tough because he's kind of, should be progressing to the next level, but far as I know, he does not have a ride next year.
I'm hearing he's going to be in the trucks again, so we'll see.
I heard a few rumors, but nothing's been confirmed. Now, he lives about 8 hours from me, so, I kind of have a relationship with his mom. Her and I play the same game
yeah.
on Facebook. It's
well, he's a great talent. He is a good talent for our sport and the Canadian market also. He is great.
Well, he's laid back. He takes care of his equipment. Like,
Yes.
you talked about that earlier about taking care of your equipment. I mean, as an owner, that's got to be pretty important to you that the driver brings that car back in one piece. Because if he doesn't bring it back in one piece, that's like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. What does that cost you when those guys do that? Wreck a
Well,
car.
I mean, the bodies are like $17,000 if you totally destroy one. But one thing you got to think about here, if you knock a fender off of that race car, and these smart drivers know that race car don't handle anymore. There's so much of an aero platform into these cars, and they're so dependent on that fender being the shape it's made to do. The splitter gets bent. Anything like that happens, and that car don't drive. And not only are you spending the owner's money or the marketing partner's money, then you look like crap out there running around 30th when you ought to be running 10th to 15th in that kind of equipment because you got too aggressive or made a wrong move. And that's what I'm talking about when I say these kids, Ryan and Ross, are racers. They've raced and they know when not to stick their nose in there and when it won't work already. And that's what's going to make the difference in these boys.
Johnny, you was talking earlier about marketing the drivers and with the chase, and if you get in and say on down the road, if the right opportunity presented itself, would you be interested in moving your operation to Cup?
That would take millions of dollars. I would be interested in doing it, but would not do it if I couldn't do it properly. I would not dare attempt to take a Cup car to the racetrack and attempt to run a Cup race if I didn't have full sponsorship. I'll race these Xfinity cars when I don't have enough money because I know how to make things work. Not saying I couldn't make it work over there, but it takes as much to go attempt to qualify for a Cup race as we spend to race. So it's a big deal. It's a huge, tremendous step up to go in that venue. Can we do it? Are we capable of doing it? If you're asking me that, yeah, we're smart enough to do it and we can do it. But we're not going to try and make that venue work unless the partners were all right.
So in other words, unless the sponsorship was there, not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I would hate to know I had to attempt to run a full season of Cup and didn't have a $15 million budget.
Yeah, and when we've been talking about the charter deal, the whole charter deal, it seems like it could work for some of the smaller teams, but still, the economy being what it is, that would still require millions from you, wouldn't it? Even with the charter system in place.
Yeah, but to start with, once they issue those charters, there's no way to get one unless you go race for 3 or 4 years for small amounts of money, and it just don't pay off. Then you got to have $20 million of sponsorship.
Yeah.
If you go in without a charter.
Personally, I can't see the total advantage to doing that when you are happy at this level of racing where you're at now, where you have your business. Because it sounds that way to me.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I don't need another day of working because I already work 14 in 7 days.
Yeah, none of us do.
But no, I'm comfortable. I'm happy. I like racing. Would I like to be in the Cup Series? Years ago, I wanted to be in there. But I'm comfortable where I'm at now, and I'm comfortable helping these younger guys jumpstart their career and go get in these Cup cars. And, I can look and say, well, I helped that guy get there, and I'm proud of what I've done. Everybody finds their market, and I'm comfortable continuing to build the relationship that Gary Keller and I have and build our team to the next level. And I think we can competitively win years down the road in this series. So I want to win. I have a desire to win, not just be there. So
right.
That's another thing that keeps me out of the Cup garage.
Right. how many times do you want to start over and start building these whole businesses? I'm sure the charter might make everybody just a little. Yeah, I know. I think I've heard Dale Jr. talk about a little bit about saying he's really happy with his teams, racing at the Xfinity level. He may not ever have an interest in actually throwing together a cup team because he likes working with young talent.
Yeah, and I can understand that, and I'm kind of in the same shape there. I don't want to go somewhere and set yourself up for failure. Failure's not an option. It's not a word in my vocabulary, so I'm not going to do things that I would fail at. And if you go in that cup garage without proper funding, you have a 90% failure chance there, and them's not good odds. So I don't like that word, and I stay away from it. So I'm not going there unless I can spend somebody else's $20 million.
That's right.
You don't want to be a starting perk.
No, ma'am. I did that one time, and I was doing it for the money to race our other car with, and I hated that the whole time I done it. And there was a time that we were known as a starting park team, although we were racing one car, and that starting park situation, it overridden what we were really trying to do, and I don't want to do that. If it comes to me having to start and park, I believe I'd just soon sell all this stuff and sit here with Carol, and her and I get in the motorhome and go to the beach or something.
Yeah, that's often a question that our fans ask is about the start and park. They hate seeing the start and parks, right?
Well, I understand why the owners do it. They do it for a cash flow, and it does help to get more cash coming in at certain times. But on the backside, it winds up costing you the same thing, and you don't really have a big profit from it. But it helps you in time of needs for money and buying other parts. And it's just us dadgum old racers. We tend to work twice as hard to get to race one car really good sometimes, and that's the situation we had. I think last year in the Xfinity Series, as far as a full-time start and park car, we didn't have but maybe one, and I think we had cars that tried to be there all day long and tried to make the laps, and that was good to see.
Well, and this year with the chase, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that start and park thing is even going to fly, right? You're gonna realize that, hey, I've got a chance to be in a chase. I got 12 spots, only 19 cars last year raced every race. That's pretty damn good, right? You've got pretty good odds of getting in that chase. You get in that top 12, and if some of those races happen to be Dega, and one of those will be Dega, you've got a pretty good chance of getting into the top 8. I mean,
yeah, no, the Dega race is not in our chase. Our chase starts at Kentucky, the fall Kentucky race, and Phoenix. It's the last seven races, I believe it is.
Right, it is 7. I checked earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So Talladega, we don't go to Talladega the second time around, but it's in the Cup chase, but not in ours.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I get confused with the different races, but still, imagine being up in those top 8, and then it's like all of a sudden, whoa! Like last year in the Cup side, for instance, Martin Truex Jr. I mean, who would have thought that? And the year before with Newman. I mean, there's all of a sudden you have an opportunity to, be right there in the conversation.
Yeah, and we've been there the last 2 years. Like we said, if they would have had the chase format the last 2 years, we'd have had a car in both of the last 2-year chases. And,
exactly.
We're going to continue to thrive to do that, but we're going to have 2 cars in there this year. And if we don't have 2 cars in the chase at the end of the year, I'm going to be badly disappointed.
So, okay, that's my next question. Is that your goal, is to have those 2 cars in the chase?
My goal is to have Ryan Preece and Ross Chastain in the chase. in this series this year.
Oh, how cool would that be? When I'm walking through the garage in Daytona in a couple weeks, I'm going to slap one of my Happy Hour garage stickers on your car, and that
Well,
sucker
come on,
is
we'll
gonna.
put one on all three of them.
That sucker is going through to the chase. I swear. I swear. I honestly think that with like you said, Ross Chastain and Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece is amazing. Ross Chastain, amazing. Both those guys have so much potential. Ross Chastain has already proven his potential last year with his 4 top tens. I mean, he had a rookie year that was outstanding, and Ryan Preece has got a wow. I mean, I've been following modified racing forever, and Ryan Preece to me is he's my new Jeff Gordon. I like him. He's calm, he's cool, he looks after his cars, he knows how to drive, and now that he's going to be in a full-time every single race for the same team kind of team, I think you'll see the benefit of that in consistency, right?
Well, you will, and we'll have races that we're going to try harder to do better at. We'll have some races early on as he's acclimating himself to these cars in a full-time situation. He's going to experience things he's never experienced before. We know there's going to be some lows, but we depend on learning from those lows. Absolutely. And getting better and capitalizing mid-season on. Atlanta's one of them places that the tire don't have the same grip coming off the corner that it had going into the corner. It just kills tires there. And I don't know that Ryan's been on racetracks that he understands that, but we've talked about that already. And
he's going to learn that real quick.
He comprehends that the grip might not be there when he gets back to next lap, and he's got to be ready to react. And he's on board. He's a super talent. It's going to be fun.
He's a wheel man. He's a total wheel man. I mean, he reminds me of Greg Biffle a lot.
Yep. He is a wheel man. He can get her done.
Yeah.
You know, when wheelman, I was just going to remark about one of the things I've noticed about both of these drivers is that they give good descriptions of what's happening with the car. I'm guessing that that's because both of them really know a lot about the engine packages under the car. And that makes a big difference. When you hear these guys talking with their crew chiefs, some of them know what they might fix if they were back in the garage. Do you know what I mean? It makes for a better driver, I think.
Yeah, what the driver's got to do, and these boys will be really good at it. Ross is good at it. We've worked with him. We know he is, and I feel 100% sure Ryan's going to be, is they have to dissect the corner as to where the car does what, whether it's the first part of entry, middle part of entry, or the end of the entry to the center. You know, that corner is dissected in about 8 sections, and they talk about how that car did what and how they responded. Then the crew chief and the engineer decide what changes they do to make it overcome what they're feeling, and they go back out and make other runs. And we had a good time last year. Ross was not slow to get going with those things. Actually, we started off really super good, but there were some times Ross's description wasn't right, but after talking to him, Gary talking to him, he learned how to understand how to dissect the corner to him so he could make proper adjustments on the car, and they really got good at that point in time.
And as well as being wheelmen, it seems like they really take care of their equipment. It's like with Preece, I followed him some last year when he did the Cup cars with the Premium Motorsports team, because we have some of those guys in our group, and I don't remember him crashing that Cup car, so that shows his car control, and I think. Yeah,
and he brought that car home every time. So, like I say, we looked at him hard before we talked to him. I promise you, and we talked to Tommy Baldwin. Tommy's a big pusher of Ryan and his talent, and feels strongly on him. But we looked at what he had done and what the car looked like after the race, and 99% of the time, the car didn't have a scratch on it. So we're really looking forward to helping him go to the next level here.
I think he's gonna his modified fans will be, of course, following, but I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think that it will really come across in your cars and do nothing but positive things for you. And that that leads me to a question: is when you're looking at all these different guys for car rides. Okay, obviously you're looking for. You said this earlier about a guy who's not going to crash every car, a guy that can work on his car. What else do you look for?
Well, there again, you keep going pointing toward that dollar thing.
Yes.
But that continues to be something. But we're not greedy, so we've never chose dollar over talent. We always look at talent, and talk about Ryan and his modified stuff. Ryan's a racer at heart, and he wants to race every day if he could, and he's still going to drive that modified car probably 19 or 20 times this year for the same owner that he's got now in that thing. They're going to run what they call speed weeks down at New Smyrna. He'll be down there before we get there racing.
Shannon will be there.
I will be there. I'll send you some pics.
There you go. Send them on to us. But he's a racer, man. He wants to be in the car each and every day if he can.
And that's the thing with a good racer. Like, I'll bring Kyle Larson up here. I mean, because he kind of, Ryan Preece kind of reminds me of Kyle Larson in some ways, in the fact that and Casey Kane to some extent, maybe in a different concept, but Kyle Larson, I mean, all this whole off season, I've been seeing nothing but pictures of him racing midgets, sprint cars, you name it. He's out there. Like, who do you think in the Cup level is somebody to kind of watch? Who would you love to have on your team?
Well, in the Cup, who would I like to have on my team?
If money was no object.
If money was no object, I'd like to have Landon back with a no money object. That kid has a lot of talent.
Has he ever washed his jeans?
Sure he has.
Did you see that Race Hub episode where he said he never washed his jeans?
No, I didn't see that, but yeah, he was always neat and clean and good hygiene around us. So, he's a talent. He's good too.
He is.
And, I really like working with these younger people more so than the older people, but the reflexes are so sharp, and the things they can do, it's amazing. Not to take anything away from the Greg Biffles and the older racers, but I don't drive down the highway at 90 no more. I slowed down to 85, so I'm not as good as I used to be no more.
Who do you think? Like, there's lots of guys in Cup who are probably soon to be retiring. So you got all these young guys coming up, and who is your dream driver? Like, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but who would that be?
Who is my dream driver in Cup? Kyle Busch he's a great talent. He does a good job. I mean, he has remarkable car control, and to come back after his injury last year and do what he done, winning the championship over there, I mean, he has to be someone to reckon with, and someone you throw a shout out to for what he done last year. So I'd say he's the man. He don't drive my brands, but he's the man.
Yeah, if he drove for you, man, you'd be like in Stardomville, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's not a bad choice, and we talked about Kyle Busch actually quite a bit on the show over the last year because of where he came from and where he got and ended up in the championship. I mean, it was wow. It was a wow moment.
Yes, it is.
It is. So, pardon me, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years. I don't know. I don't know that I'll ever quit working on race cars or old cars. I have a few old cars. I like them. But, you know, I'm a firm believer if you slow down, then things don't go good. So I always want to keep my mind occupied. I always want to keep busy. I'm not a person that can sit on a couch or be idle. I got to be doing something. So if I'm not still racing, and I hope I am, I'll be piddling with some old cars somewhere, an old car show, or buying and selling old cars, I guess.
That sounds like a plan for me.
Yeah.
I'd like that one.
Me too.
I had just a quick question. We have been speaking to a number of different people. One of the things I never realized were how many of the teams actually rent Cup pit crews for their races. Do you
We actually use Hendrick Motorsports developmental crew. They're first-year guys and the guys that don't get promoted up if they don't lose people in the Cup side that have to stay on the younger teams. We do a deal with Hendrick Motorsports, and we have two of their teams every week in and week out. We have had for, I think, 3 years now, and that's a great thing to have. Sometimes the guys make mistakes, but we all are human, and we're also a part in helping Hendrick Motorsports develop their future pit crews by allowing them to pit our cars and gain experience there.
Oh yeah, I mean I've watched their pit crews, the developmental ones. Those guys are really good. So I'll pay more attention now to the guys that are pitting your cars. I like to focus a lot on what's actually happening in the pits. So it's just one of my little fetishes with the thing. So I'll enjoy that. And you don't have to actually get them to and from the tracks. Henrik does that.
They actually, if like at Daytona, that same group will come in and do the truck race. They'll do our cars, and then they'll stay and do a lesser Cup team for the Cup race. They'll work 3 days there. And that's part of the way Hendrick Motorsports trains their athletes and their pit crew people to get better. I mean, you can't learn how to drive a car if you don't never sit in the seat, and you can't learn how to change tires if you don't change tires. You know, you can do it all you want to at pit stop practice and all that, but until you jump over that wall and there's 39 other cars beside the one you're working on, exhaust and wind coming by you going down pit road, you don't know how good you're going to be. So it's on-the-job training is basically what it is, and you got to do it in our sport to be good.
Oh, definitely. Then, there's just some other small details. Do you have a tire manager for all of your teams?
Last year we had one guy that managed everything for all three teams, had the tires laid out, assorted the tires for all three teams, and then we worked together to try and find more tires for the race, from different avenues, whether it be from Cup cars. We don't buy all the tires we're allowed because we don't have the budget to buy all the tires we're allowed. So therefore we had to come up with tires from Cup teams that would run them a couple of laps and not use them anymore. And we would race some of those tires mixed in with new tires. Truck race, we'd stay for the truck race. If they raced the night before and we're on the same tire, somebody crashed out, or if they had tires left, we'd try and buy them at a cheaper price so we'd have more tires. Just certain little tricks of the business that we survive on that some people don't do. And to be honest with you, it's a big headache and a lot more work. If we had the money, we'd go buy all the tires because it's better.
Well, of course. It's always good to have good new tires, right? But,
That's
a
right.
lot of people don't realize that you would try and go buy those guys' tires.
Yep, we do it. So not only has my guys raced and done well, lots of times they started on used tires instead of new tires.
Johnny, I have one last question, and it's a two-part question. First, I wanted to get your feelings on Cup drivers in the Xfinity Series, and also how would you feel if they were to institute that caution clock in the Xfinity Series?
Cup drivers in our series, I don't mind racing them guys. The problems I've got, and there's really no way to fix it, I don't think, is I hate racing Cup mentality and Cup engineering in our garage. I wish we could somehow separate the two to where all our stuff was equal. Now, NASCAR tries hard to do that. They work hard at trying to do that. But you take the Gibbs and Hendricks, Childers, they got all them CNC machines there sitting making parts, and we don't have those. And they make a lot of stuff, and they run it in the Cup Car 1 race and hand it down to the Xfinity cars a couple of races, and they grind it up. They won't sell it. So, there's special wheel hubs and a lot of different other parts that they make that are lighter than our parts that we can go buy. So there's an advantage in that. And if we could ever do anything that would bring us all closer together, it would be the parts and things we use. If it was to where, back many years ago, there used to be a rule in the rule book. If the part wasn't readily available to all competitors, it was not legal. So, they're not making illegal parts, don't take me wrong. They're making parts, they're getting approved, there's safety, but they have the dollars, and that's one of the reasons it's driven cost up so much in racing, to make $3,000 worth of stuff and run it one race. And they do that times probably 15 or 20 things on the car, and that's what's driven the cost of racing up in that series so much.
No. And that's hard, like Mike Harmon, we interviewed him the other night, and he talked about a mentoring system that I actually found kind of interesting, and you may kind of relate to this a little bit, is he said some of these big Cup teams should mentor a small underfunded Xfinity or truck team, share some data, maybe share some of those parts that you're talking about, and that would be intriguing. What do you think about that? I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, that would be great, but you got to realize there's such a competitive business, and everybody has a friend that knows a friend that talks to a friend, and if you start mentoring and letting some of your trade secrets out, before you know it, nobody's going to have a secret or nobody's going to have an advantage, and that's why they're so protective of that, and it's never going to happen, and I can understand that.
Yeah, well, and it totally makes sense. I mean, they're so, like you said, they're so competitive. I want to ask you, I just want to take it right off topic here, but I want to ask you a little bit about Cindy Woosley, who, you guys made history there with the first female crew chief, and I think that was at Vegas in 2008.
Yes.
Yeah, you had, I think your current crew chief was under penalty or something. But, you don't often hear about women and don't get me wrong, I'm not hung up on women in racing. I'm not at all in any form. But that's kind of cool that you have that first record.
Yeah, I have that record, and that record was actually an accident.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend was the crew chief, and he got suspended at Daytona. We appealed it, and the appeals board met, and they denied our appeal. And so we was at Vegas, and they said, you got to list a crew chief. I was listed on the other car. We didn't have many people that was helping us. And I said, Cindy, you want to be the crew chief? She said, sure, I can do it.
That's
so
right. I said my buddy Marine earlier.
We didn't know what we had done. I mean, here come all these reporters once they said it. And she was overwhelmed, and she was a good old country girl from, I think, up in Virginia area. And,
with no crew chief
experience. She didn't like it at all after she admitted wanting to do that everybody's wanting to talk to her and take her picture. But it got a lot of press. It brought a little press to the team. And
it was crazy.
Yeah, and it was a fun moment.
But, the reality was, for people who don't know, is that she had absolutely no crew chief experience whatsoever.
None at all. None at all.
That's what did you say, Maureen, earlier on, that somebody was looking for a driver for Daytona? What was that?
I forget now.
Yeah, that
Let's
was
wind back the
a while
tape.
ago, and I said, oh yeah, I'll just go drive. I'll just get in that car at 190
right.
miles an hour, at 6 wide, 2 inches apart. And yeah, I'm down there already. Why don't I just jump in the car? Like that's as equally as ridiculous.
Well, back in the day, all you had to do was show up and have enough money to buy a license, and you could go drive if you had a car.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I want to ask you something. What do you think? Like NASCAR is going through some changes with social media and modern day electronics, and there's a lot of talk about our ratings are going down and this and that. What do you think is a problem with NASCAR these days?
That's a tough question, but it's
I
a
know.
good
I'm
question.
sorry.
It really is. Sometimes I think things grow too fast, and it becomes a fad because it grew so fast, and we just got to re-educate the younger people about our sport and get it exposed to them properly, and they'll get addicted back to it. It's just so addicting that you can't walk away from it. But we went through a growth spurt there, and everybody, I'm going to blame racetracks and everybody. Everybody thought they had to make all the money they could at one time, and instead of looking at a longevity of what it was. And the cycle kind of got a little bored, and people got burned out, and we went through an economy crunch, and people couldn't afford to come. And once you quit doing something that you don't have to do, then it's harder to go back to it. But we're building our fan base back up. The sport's growing. I'm proud of everything NASCAR's done, and I think we're headed in the right direction.
I think so too. I was thinking we have had a chance to talk to some of the track owners over the past year. An interesting guy was one of the sons of the owners, current owners now, of Pocono Raceway, and I'll see you at Pocono coming up. But they've actually made a point of utilizing social media there, and they've made it to the point where I can go now when I head up there June 4th, I guess it is, and I'll be able to rent a locker space, and I can charge up any of my equipment, my phone, so that I can send Shannon pictures from the track. I think that's that's the kind of adaptation I think our sport has to make now for some of our younger fans. My daughter's 20. I'm used to being around a lot of the younger kids today, and I see how important it is. And we might mock that. Those of us over 50, don't understand all of this need, but we do have to kind of respect it if we want to have that younger fan base. And I think the two drivers you have now can be that. They can be that. What word
modern
do I want to
day.
use?
Modern day.
They can lead us there.
Yeah, we got to modernize what we're doing, the sport of NASCAR racing. We just got to modernize it a little bit, and these younger generations are going to help us do it. And I think the good Lord that there's enough young generation of drivers that want to be in here, and they're going to share it with their friends, and their friends is going to share it with their friends, and our fan base is going to be great, big, like it used to be in the near future. I have all good expectations for that, and NASCAR does a tremendous job. They continue to reach out to all markets, and Canada, Mexico, they cross the borders, and they reach out to everybody. So we're going to be all right.
Speaking of Mexico, did you when Xfinity used to go down there and race? Were you guys part of that?
We went to every one of them, yes, ma'am.
And what was that like? I used to work for a big automotive company based in Canada, and we had 7 plants in Mexico. So I'm used to Mexico, and what was that like getting across the border?
It It's a unique challenge. Let me
It
just
is.
tell you.
It is. Tell us about it.
Well,
it must have been hilarious.
I drove my truck to the race in Mexico the first time we went down there, and you pull up to the border, and of course, NASCAR and the UPS people were very good that they had everything planned out, and they facilitated it to where it was nowhere near what it would have been had we tried to do it on our own, I promise you. And
oh, God, can you imagine?
they put us all in convoys, and I think there was 8 to 10 trucks, race trucks with a Goodyear truck and some support vehicles, and we'd pull up to the border, and they'd back us all in there. They'd come out there and verify our registration on our truck and on our trailer, and maybe open a door or two and look in there, and just, it wasn't hard at all. I don't think it is nowhere near what it would be today if you tried to do it on your own. But they check your records, and then you get in and you come back out, and then the United States checks all your stuff to make sure you haven't brought out more than you took in, and that everything still looks to be the same. And it wasn't a big process. It probably took about an hour at the border to go through that with about 8 trucks. And they were ready for us. NASCAR and UPS and everybody that worked on that when we crossed them borders, they had it fixed to where you pulled in there as a group. They took care of you, and they sent you on your way. Now, going into Canada, y'all do that quite often. That was a simple deal. I mean, we've had all the paperwork filled out. NASCAR and the UPS groups worked with us to be sure we had all the paperwork filled out. We individually did that, and that was no problem at all. But the Mexican deal was a little bit more challenging, but it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, they stopped doing those races down in Mexico. I always wondered why.
I didn't like it. I'll be honest. I didn't like it, but I did it because I support NASCAR and what they wanted to do and trying to take racing there. But I don't like going to them places. We get looked upon differently down there. Mexico City's not the best place to want to be at.
Oh, my God.
Alone.
You don't have to tell me that.
No. But I didn't like it, but I did it.
I always wondered, like the years I worked for the automotive industry, and we had all these plants in Mexico, and I used to get stopped in the middle of nowhere by these 17-year-olds pointing MK-47s at me and just telling me to get out of the vehicle in Spanish. And just getting out and getting searched and going through all that. Like a lot of people never realize that part of Mexico. They only see the resorts and the all-inclusive and stuff. And I always wondered how that went for the race teams, because I know as an automotive manufacturer, that was a real pain in the ass. They once threw one of our quality guys in jail. And it took us $25,000 to get him out, and they put him through hell and back, to get him out. And we got him out. It was all just a matter of bribery, and as all things are in Mexico. And so many people don't see that kind of part of Mexico. And when NASCAR stopped going there, I often wondered if that was why.
Well, I will say this, and I don't want to elaborate on it much, but it's the only place I ever been that a 17-year-old pointed one of them guns at me, and it happened down there in a checkpoint.
So you can relate.
I can relate to exactly what you're saying. I had it done, and
I'm a ditto. Me too.
Yep.
I'll try and tell you right quick. For somehow I got put into the last convoy coming back, the last race we run in Mexico, and I helped drive my truck down there and back. And we got put in a convoy with the wing, what did Goodyear call their trucks? It was a Goodyear tire truck in there that was a service truck. If we had problems, well, they had to fuel those things up every 150 miles. So we had to do more stops than the other groups. And we come up on what I call an Army checkpoint on the highway, which was at a truck stop, and they were filling up the Wingfoot trucks and I was the lead race truck, and the Mexican Army guy was trying to get me to pull on in there, and our guide was telling me, no, stay where I'm at. And because I disobeyed his order, here he come walking across the little small lot where I was pulled over on the side of the road, and he's pecking that gun on the side of my window, wanting me to roll my window down. I'm talking on the CB to our guide, hey, you need to get over here quick. I can't even talk to this guy, you know. So finally I rolled the window down because I could tell he was aggravated and was getting mad. And he lays the gun inside the cab of my truck and points it at me, and he talks in Spanish. I don't know what he's saying. All I can say is no Spaniel, no speak Spanish. That's all I can say. And finally, the guy got there and got to talking to him. The guy got off the truck, talked to him a little while, and then he walked on. He took about, 15, 20 steps away from my truck. He stopped, and he turned around and looked at me, and he pointed that gun at me again and grinned. And I didn't know if he was going to shoot it or what he was going to do. And I called Joe Ballas when we got back in the United States. I said, Joe, I hope we never go back down there again because I'll never go without smuggling a gun in there if I go, and I probably won't get out because I don't like getting a gun pointed at me.
Nope. You know what?
Thank goodness we never went back.
I can so relate to that story.
Yep, me
That's
too.
exactly how it happened, and
Yep.
I didn't know what to do. I really did not know what to do, and I'm talking on the CB, and I can only imagine what this Army guy's thinking that don't know me or don't know our way of doing things. You know, he's raised different. We're in his country, and
exactly.
wasn't it? We was trying to do something wrong. We just couldn't communicate.
Nope, and there's no rules down there.
It's the no rules part that gets you, because I've driven in several European countries, and I've driven up in Canada, and I've driven in Mexico just once.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's crazy. And I got stopped too, and it's scary, and I would never, ever take a car through again. Never.
Nope.
I hope I never have to go to Mexico again for no reason.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not surprised by that at all. All the years I worked down there, I used to have to cross the border every day, and man, the things I've seen, it just would just blow most people's minds. And people say to me all the time, "Oh, I go to Mexico all the time. I go to these all-inclusive resorts, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, no. You know, I worked in the real Mexico. I'm never going back there ever again.
No. I hope I never have a reason to have to go back to Mexico. I enjoyed the race. We had a little bit of fun. We experienced that, and there's just some things you don't want to keep doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So on the other end of the spectrum in Canada, okay, because I'm a Canuck, right? Both my co-hosts are Americans. So, what was your response in Canada?
I had a good time in Canada. I enjoyed the racing there. Little misconfusion on my part, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't have anything bad to say about Canada.
That's good.
The racetrack was hard on equipment that we chose to go to.
Yes, that's a hard racetrack.
We put on a good show for them, and I really wish that we could have continued to go to Canada. We just couldn't make it work. We couldn't get the fans there to pay the purses we needed, it looked like. And so I know the trucks are still going there, I think. And
They are to Canadian Motorsports Park. Yep. To Ron
that
Fallon's
works
track.
out for them. But we need to attract all people that we can to our races, and going to Canada is a good, safe thing to do. I had zero bad experience going to Canada, I guess is the best way to
I'm glad
say
to
it.
hear that.
And I had a few bad experiences going to Mexico. We're leaving the racetrack one day. They put us on buses, and they would send a bus. We had a bus driver and somebody that was supposed to speak English on the bus the first year was great. The second year, we all get bused to the racetrack, and I wind up on a bus going back to the motel. And these are buses the size of Greyhound buses. And the Mexican bus driver got lost. He didn't even know the area. And before you know it, I could see the hotel. We was 3 blocks away. I finally just got up and walked up where I said, "Stop." And he was trying to talk to me, and he couldn't, and we didn't have nobody on there that could speak to him. I said, "Open the door." And I reached and got the door handle to open it, and there's about half of us got off the bus and started walking because we could see the motel. And we was kind of fearful for where we might be if he turned left. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yep.
We could see we was in a good enough neighborhood, and we could see the hotel, and we could walk there. And they was probably 40 of us got off that bus and walked as a group to the hotel from where he was at, about 3 blocks away.
I always wondered about that Mexico experience for Cup and Xfinity teams. It was like, whoa, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in Mexico for so many years. I know, and Maureen will attest to this, that most people see one side. The real Mexico is a different, complete side.
Yep.
And you guys saw that, and it's scary. It's freaking scary.
Yeah. Well, there's no need to dwell on bad things. Let's try and find good things to talk about. I have some good Mexican friends that live in the States now, and they'll hopefully get their situation resolved over there and get going, and maybe one day things will be great and the sport of racing can go back there. If not, we'll continue to support NASCAR's effort supporting Mexicans racing over there in the Mexican Touring Series, and Joe Ballas does a good job with all that. So, there's a room in racing for all countries.
And look at Daniel Suarez. I mean, he's making a really good name for himself.
Yep.
I mean, he's
Yes.
a good little racer, and he's told us he will come on the show one of these days. So we'll have to get him on here one of these days, because it'd be interesting to hear his side of that. But it's an international sport, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it always amazes me that in our show we have people. Some of our biggest listeners are from places like Norway and Sweden and
Ecuador. We have
like all over the place. It's totally bizarre.
Yep. NASCAR has fans all over the world. It's just that it is a truly American sport, and it's good to stay right here for racing.
I think so.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, we've had an absolute blast talking to you. And
I've certainly enjoyed it.
It's been great listening to the other side of the story. I think fans really like to hear what it's like being an owner in the sport, and the trials and tribulations, and you've given us a good taste of that.
Well, just always remember, JD Motorsports Incorporated with Gary Keller and a lot of the small team. The owner is an owner-operator. He's in the business operating and making it work. Nothing against Mr. Hendricks or anybody else. We don't have car dealerships, and we don't float in and out of our business periodically through the week. We're there. I'm there at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I'm there at 6, 7 a.m. at night or longer if need be. And when it comes time to get in the truck, if a truck driver don't show up, I'm going to drive the hauler to the racetrack. And I just got to do whatever it takes to make our business be successful.
And that's the true story of a team there. You do whatever has to be done. I mean, here you are an owner. I mean, you probably make millions of dollars every year, and at least that's what people think. Right?
That's what they think. That's right.
But that's not really true.
If I could sell me for what everybody thinks I'm worth, I could retire, I promise.
and that's the reality of the situation. Is you're just like you and me and Maureen and Buddy. We're all struggling to make ends meet and get somewhere and make our names known or whatever. But we're not rolling in dough. We're working our butts off to get to the place we want to be in a sport that we feel passionate about. Like to us, this isn't work. This is fun.
Well, I've been doing it since 1981 as a professional race team owner, whatever. I did take about 5-year break in raising my children when I went through a divorce and got custody of them and raised them and had a go-kart business doing that, and that was how we got Curtis Racing. But other than that, I've had a valid NASCAR license with the exception of those 4 or 5 years since 1981. So as
That's
a car
a long
owner.
time.
So,
That's a long time.
yeah.
And kudos to you. You know, man, it's guys like you that are the what's the word I'm looking for?
Bread and butter of our sport.
Yeah, exactly. And
Well,
you know what? We're all going to cheer for you.
Yes,
yeah,
we
well,
are.
I certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on the show and exposing me to all your markets. And we're looking for great things for Brian and Ross and Eric at Daytona, and a great season for Ryan and Ross, who are going to be full-time in our cars. And man, it's just the sky's the limit.
It's
And
exciting.
We're climbing high.
It's
All right.
totally exciting, and I'm gonna come down and say hi to you during Daytona when I'm down there, and I'll slap my sticker on your car, and you know what? I can hardly wait. I can only imagine how exciting that would be to have 1 or 2 or 3 of those cars winning Daytona 500 right up front there.
Yes, it would. It'll be great, and we're going to do it.
We are.
Don't be surprised if you have to come in there and give me that kiss in victory lane now.
Yeah. Hey, I promise you, baby.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for having me on, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
We hope you've enjoyed hanging out in the Happy Hour Garage. Thanks for tuning in. Please join Shannon and Maureen next week for another episode of NASCAR news, interviews, and stories. Check out our website at www.happyhourgarage.com for our previous shows and see what's coming up next.